Please welcome two-time Golden Globe winner, Jim Carrey.
Thank you. I am two-time Golden Globe winner, Jim Carrey. You know, when I go to sleep at night, I'm not just a guy going to sleep. I'm two-time Golden Globe winner, Jim Carrey, going to get some well-needed shut-eye. And when I dream, I don't just dream any old dream. No, sir. I dream about being three-time Golden Globe winning actor Jim Carrey. Because then I would be enough. It would finally be true. And I could stop this terrible search for what I know ultimately won't fulfill me. But these are important, these awards. I don't want you to think that just because if you blew up our solar system alone, you wouldn't be able to find us or any of human history with the naked eye. But from our perspective, this is huge.
I am zero-time Golden Globe Award winner Mike Housholder, who will be preaching this sermon to you, nor do I longer desire to be one-time Golden Globe winning Pastor Mike either. Jim Carrey did a nice job there of completely blowing up the whole award process among celebrities and putting it in its proper perspective. He's a deeply spiritual dude. He does paintings, and a lot of times he says, when I paint, I just end up painting Jesus or crosses, and it centers me, it reminds me of what's really important. And I'm not here to say, you know, I recommend his theology. I think he's wandered into a lot of New Age stuff too, and some kind of dangerous territory, but there he's biblically spot on in that video clip by reminding himself and reminding all of us that the longing that we have doesn't always, even if we succeed in achieving the longing that we have, the goals, the dreams that we have, it still isn't going to be enough. Because then he says, if I could win that third Golden Globe, he is a two-time winner, if I could win that third one or an Oscar, and there's a whole other clip where he kind of blows that all up and makes fun of it and mocks the whole process of wanting to win an award and campaigning to win an award and glad-handing with people in order to win an award, and he never did win the Academy Award, even though he was favored to win the Academy Award. I would have shown you that clip, but it wasn't as G-rated, so I chose not to. But at that Golden Globes, you heard him say it. It's because if I won that third Golden Globe, he mockingly says of himself, Mike making fun of himself, then I'd be enough. Then somehow I'd be fulfilled and satisfied. I could stop this terrible search for what I know ultimately won't fulfill me. A little trophy isn't going to fulfill us. An award, a plaque, a recognition, an honor. It's never going to be enough because it'll last for a while. I'm not saying it won't bring you joy or won't bring us joy for a little while, but it doesn't last. It doesn't hold on. The trophies get tarnished. They wear out. And soon after, nobody cares. The whole world that we're trying to impress by winning these awards and these plaques and getting these honors doesn't even pay it any mind anymore. And soon we forget too, and we realize, well, there has to be something more to life than this. Jim Carrey also, at the pinnacle of his career, famously said this. He said, I think everybody should get rich and famous and do everything that they've ever dreamed of so they can see that it's not the answer. This is at the peak of his career when he's making tens of millions of dollars just for showing up at a movie set. And he's getting portions of the box office proceeds that are coming in. He's considered the #1 comedian in the world at this time. He says, I wish everybody could have what I have. I wish they could see that the quest to be rich, the quest to be famous, the quest to be well-known, the quest to be recognized, the quest to be honored, the quest to get these little trophies might be everything you dream of, but it's not the answer. So that begs the question, doesn't it? What's the answer? What's the answer not just for Jim Carrey and all the celebrities who gather together at these award ceremonies and and whatever else quests we go. We try to win a World Series or a Super Bowl or a state championship or something else along the way. If that isn't going to be enough, and it isn't, and deep down we know this, and yet we don't live that way, do we? So what if we could align the way we live and the priorities we have as individuals and also for our families, if we have influence over kids or grandkids, what if we could align what we know will fulfill us with the way we live? Or to the flip side of that same coin, what if we could step away from living our lives and directing our families to live their lives to pursue things that ultimately aren't going to fulfill them? To start to get on a better pathway and to find that better way that leads to a deeper truth and a more abundant life. So the title of this sermon, taken from our Bible reading for today, is Who is the Greatest? Because that's the question the disciples are asking. The chapter before, in Mark chapter 9, they were moving to Capernaum. Jesus and his disciples were on the move. They were traveling. They settled into a house, and Jesus asked his disciples, this is verse 33 of Mark 9, what were you discussing out on the road? But they didn't answer, because they'd been arguing about which of them was the greatest. Who's the greatest? Jesus sat down amongst them. He called the 12 disciples over to him, which is always a sign in the Gospels that they're in trouble. Family meeting. Everybody, come on, let's gather together. I've got something that I've noticed that you're doing that needs correction. Because I love you. Not because I want to scold you, not because I want to shame you, not because I want to tell you how wrong you are, but because I love you and I don't want you to walk down a pathway your whole life that doesn't lead to fulfillment, that doesn't lead to satisfaction. So he says, whoever wants to be first in this group, in any group that follows me, and that would include us, the 21st century church, the followers of Jesus Christ today, whoever among us wants to be first must take last place and be the servant of everyone else. We skip ahead, or we skip back actually to I'm sorry, I'm going the wrong way. What happened to my clicker? Help. There we are. Who's the greatest? Bear with me. I'll get this right by 9:15. You might want to come back. There it is. There's the chapter before. Whoever wants to be my disciple, Jesus says, must deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow me. That summarizes the Christian life better than anything else you'll ever see or read. It summarizes Jesus' teaching, and it is so countercultural. It is such a radical alternative to the way of this world, to the way of this community that we live in, that we're a part of right here in the western suburbs of Des Moines, Iowa. This is so counter to the things that we live for and what matters most to us. Deny yourself. It's not about you. This might be kind of fun. Turn to the person next to you and say, it's not about you. Go ahead and just put that out there. It's some of the best teaching from Jesus that we'll ever get. It's about him, and it's about our relationships. It isn't about our quest for Golden Globes and Academy Awards and state titles and plaques and stuff that isn't going to last and getting honored. It isn't about making more money and getting more materials and getting bigger houses and traveling more of the world and seeing more things. Listen, there's nothing wrong with that. Nowhere in the Gospels does Jesus say there's anything wrong with wanting to be great. He's just redefining greatness for us. He's changing the way we understand what greatness really is. Nothing wrong with hard work, that's biblical. Nothing wrong with using the gifts that God has given to you to reach your full potential that God has created in you. Nothing wrong with pushing your kids when they're getting a little apathetic to get off the couch and to move and to start becoming what God made them to be. Not saying any of that. We don't have to just push it all away and throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's not that there's anything wrong with being great. It's just that we're aiming for the wrong target. You may or may not know this from previous sermons over the years, but biblically, in the original language, the Hebrew and the Greek of the Old and the New Testaments, the word for sin it means, translated to English, missing the mark. The idea is that there's an archer and he or she is holding the bow and arrow and aiming for the bullseye, aiming for the target. But sin means you're aiming for the wrong target. That even if you hit the bullseye, even if you put it right where you're aiming, it won't be enough. Sin means we miss the mark because we're aiming for the wrong target. We're aiming for the wrong bullseye. We don't hit it. We don't hit what it is that we've been made to be and to do. And this is what we've been made to do, to deny ourselves, to remember it's not about us and what we can get for us, to take up our cross, which means we're willing to surrender to God. Not surrender just willy-nilly to anybody, not surrender to the wrong source, but to surrender to the God who made us, loves us, and has the power to transform us and fill us up and satisfy our souls in a way that nothing else can. Deny ourselves, take up our cross, surrender, be willing to make sacrifices, be willing to live our life for something more than us. Follow me, Jesus says. A little bit later, just a couple verses later, Jesus says, because whoever wants to be my disciple, I'm sorry, I did it again. What good would it do, 2 verses later, to get everything you want and lose you, the real you? What could you ever trade your soul for? Well, Jesus isn't mincing words anymore, is he? He's not just coming up to us saying, hey, you know what you're doing is great. Just keep doing that, and it's going to go really well for you if you succeed. If you achieve, if you get the little trophy, if you get the promotion, if you make it to the top, if your kids get on the honor roll, if they become the valedictorian, if they make the team, if they make all conference, then your whole family will be satisfied. But we work for it like it's the most important thing. We emphasize it like there couldn't be anything more important than that. Jesus is here in the Gospels, Jesus for real. The Jesus we're getting to know this year on a deeper level. Jesus for real comes up to us and says, I love you, and you're aiming for the wrong target. Because the biggest frustration will be if you hit the target right on the bullseye, it won't be enough. It'll last for a while, and then it'll fade away. What good is it to gain everything in this world, everything you want, but lose yourself? The real you. This is what the real Jesus says. What could you ever trade your soul for? What does it profit somebody to gain the whole world but lose his or her soul? There's a new movie that came out, The Devil Wears Prada 2. And we're against the devil in this church. I just want to be clear on that. And in this movie, the devil's played by Meryl Streep. She's a complicated character. She's almost endearing in some sort of way, probably because she's just such an exceptional actor. She's won a lot of those little trophies. In any role that she ever plays, she just knocks it out of the park. And so here she becomes this character who's just cold as ice, who's ruthless. She heads a fashion company. She's in charge of this whole thing, this movement. She mocks people who don't understand her, including her new assistant, Andy, played by Anne Hathaway. This is in The Devil Wears Prada 1. And then her assistant starts to be enamored by the devil, by Miranda, played by Meryl Streep, who makes her feel like the way you're going to make it in this world, the way you're going to be a success, the way you're going to be great, who's the greatest is the question that Jesus is putting before us, that the disciples are arguing about. The way you're going to be great, Miranda says, is you're going to be like me. You're going to make it to the top. You're going to be the greatest. You're going to be the best. You're going to be the richest. You're going to be the most influential. You're going to be the one that everybody looks to, that everyone's intimidated by. That's how you make it. You get that kind of power, that kind of status, that kind of control. But as the movie goes on and as the plot develops, you see the Anne Hathaway character start to realize, as Miranda's assistant, that there's some holes in her logic. That even if this assistant were to achieve everything that her boss has achieved, she'd be just as empty as Miranda. She'd still have a hole in her soul. What does it profit you to gain the whole world but lose your soul? And so by the end of the movie, there's this really wonderful scene where Andy, played by Anne Hathaway, has a decision to make. Do I want to keep following the way of this world? Or do I want to find a better way that leads to life? Which path are you on? The path that leads up the stairs that Miranda, the CEO, is on, that's all about achievement and trying to influence everybody around them to think the same, that if you could achieve like I achieved, then you'd also be full? You'd be satisfied? Again, Jesus is not saying there's anything wrong with being the CEO, with being great, with being influential, with being rich, with being famous. It's just thinking that it's going to be enough. That's where we miss the mark. Thinking that that was the thing to aim for above everything else. Influencing everybody around us to think by aiming for that, there couldn't be anything more important in life to aim for. Jesus is redefining greatness for us. Actually, he's bringing us back to the original definition of greatness that our Creator gives to us, that he created us to live out. That it isn't about us, that it isn't about getting things for me and making sure that I get what I want and getting noticed and getting recognized. It's exhausting to play the recognition game. You'll never be fully appreciated for all that you do and are. And even if you are, it won't last. It'll be fleeting. It'll come and it'll go. It'll last for a little while and then it'll disappear. So Jesus says in our Bible reading for today, look to his disciples because they're lost again. James and John come to him and say, hey, when you come to your throne, Jesus, let us sit in places of honor at your right and left. And Jesus says, that's how the world does it. The rulers in this world, they lowered it over their people, and officials flaunt their authority. Among you, it'll be different. And I highlighted those words from Jesus on purpose because I want to make that point as loudly as I can this morning. As followers of Jesus Christ, if we're really going to follow him faithfully, it'll be different amongst us. We won't say one thing and do another. We won't nod our heads one way at church on Sunday, but then go out and live our lives a whole different way the rest of the week. We won't deprioritize hanging out with God, making time daily to open up his word and pray and talk to him and worship him weekly the way God wired us up to do, to remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy, including when we have company over, including when we have something important going on, including when it's a graduation weekend or we have a party that we're hosting, including when we have a sports tournament. We'll find a way to worship. We'll find a way to tune in. We'll find a way to make it a priority for our kids so that they learn what they live. And what they'll live is that God is a priority for us. He's the target we're aiming for. It isn't that you win this tournament. It isn't that you're the MVP. It isn't that you're the valedictorian. It isn't that you make the honor roll. Those are fine. Those are good. Those can be important. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be great or wanting our kids to be great. Until we teach them, that's the main target you should be aiming for. That's the one that's going to give you life and fill you up. We're so close. The disciples were so close. They wanted to be great. They knew they were following Jesus. They just confessed that he's the Messiah, and Jesus didn't correct them, that he's God in human form, that he's a fulfillment of prophecies that have been around for centuries. They've seen him do. We've read about this as we've been reading through the Gospel of Mark together as a church family, the slow tour to make sure we don't miss it. We've been reading about miracle after miracle after miracle. James and John, the sons of thunder, see this. By the way, as a quick aside, if your parents nickname you the sons of thunder, do you think they're pushing you a little hard? So here come the sons of thunder, James and John, these fishermen by trade, and they drop their nets to follow Jesus. They're blown away by what Jesus can do. And as human beings who want to be great, they want what he has. So they say, hey, we're two of your top 12. Maybe we have a shot. Hey, Jesus, you're the king of all kings. You're a very different kind of king, bringing in a very different kind of kingdom. So you're going to sit on a throne someday. And in their mind, they're thinking, maybe we take over Rome. Maybe we take over the whole empire. And this Jesus, if he can do all the things he's done already, he could certainly take over Caesar. And then he'll sit on the throne. Grant to us, Jesus, that when you come to your throne, that we can sit in the places of honor at your right hand and your left. It will not be so among you. That's the way the world does it. They flaunt their authority. They arrogantly lord it over their people. They're all about class, and I'm up here and you're down there. But it will not be so amongst you. Among you, it will be different. If you want to be a leader in my church, amongst my followers, then you better be willing to be the chief servant. You better be willing to take a knee, to bow down before everybody else. It's graduation time of year, and a lot of you are involved. We celebrated. Graduation's a big deal. Congratulations from me as well. You'll hear commencement speeches. I've heard so many commencement speeches. back when I was a kid, back when our kids were kids, back when we went through their high school commencement speeches, their college commencement speeches, graduate school commencement speeches. I've taken them all in, and I've started to notice a pattern. Have you noticed this? It goes like this. This is the world's wisdom, and this is the Word of God's wisdom, and I want to point out the contrast. In the commencement speech, they start with, "Hey, we made it! We're great!" Or words to that effect. "Hey, here we are, congratulations everybody." And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but it's just missing the mark. It isn't the target, the main target we should be aiming for. Instead of saying, "Hey, you're great, glory be to us," it's, "Hey, God, you're great, glory be to God." The commencement speech goes on. "Life is tough. It's been tough for me too." Insert personal story here about how I struggled at one point in my life, and now I'm the valedictorian. Life is tough and we'll struggle. That's what the world says. And on this level, the Bible completely agrees. Life is tough and we're all going to struggle. But where the paths diverge is everything that happens in the speeches that Jesus gives in Mark 8, 9, and 10 versus the speeches that we usually hear at commencement exercises. I'm not here to disparage commencement speakers. Maybe some of you are like, "Oh, great. I'm the one giving the commencement speech tonight, and now my pastor is ripping into me." You just do what God gives you to do. But I do want to show you this contrast because I think it's not just biblically important, it's practically important. This is the heart of Jesus' teaching of what the Christian life looks like. And it isn't what a lot of Christians think it is, which is just, hey, aim for the target that the world tells us to aim for, and Jesus will come along and maybe help us get there. Maybe he'll help us prosper. Maybe he'll help us achieve all of our worldly success goals. And that's how we're going to use Christ and use our faith. And Jesus says, it won't be so amongst you. I made you for more than that. Life is tough and we'll struggle, so how do we get through those challenging times? How do we get through those struggles? The world says, believe in yourself. It's all about you. The Word of God, Jesus says, believe in God. And it's all about the power of God's grace. The world says what Simon Estes contrasts, what he stands against. It's not all about you. Simon Estes has a whole wing of a building at Iowa State named after him. He has an amphitheater downtown Des Moines named after him. He's an active member and part of our church family here at Hope. I let him know I was going to quote him in the sermon today. He says, "Pastor Mike, I will be there and I will be excited to hear what God has to say." I love Simon Estes. He's sung before presidents and prime ministers, kings and queens, the Olympic opening ceremonies, the World Cup opening ceremonies, on the biggest opera stages all around the world. Iowa's favorite son. If anybody in Iowa could have an ego, a success, he's won all the little trophies that anybody could win, little trophies, and had all the recognitions and honors. His name's plastered on plaques all over Iowa and sometimes around the world. And he says, I believe that God has given me. As God has given everyone a talent or a gift. And that he's given it to serve him first and then to serve each other. I'm not a star. The stars are in heaven. And God put them there. I'm just a human being who's been blessed. He's aiming for the right target. He knows first and foremost he's a child of God and a follower of Jesus Christ. What about you? What are you living for? What would make you great? What would make your family great? How could you bless the people you influence by pointing them to a better target, a better bullseye about what true greatness really is? Teachers and educators, how could you influence the students that you educate and teach? By pointing them to a better target in whatever way you legally can in your setting and in your place? What difference can you make to align with the teaching of the Word of God instead of the way of this world? It isn't find your power by making sure that you have pride in everything that you do. It's surrendering that. It's receiving God's power. Because there is no power greater than the power of God's love. Do you know this? Have you experienced this? Have you checked into this? The way we live doesn't line up with the words that Jesus says. Because the way we live is aiming for a target that isn't going to give us what we're longing for. It isn't going to give us true power. It isn't going to give us truth that leads to freedom. It isn't going to give us the life that our souls long to live. The world says, and this comes up in commencement speeches too, climb the ladder, gain status, fix the world, heal everything that's wrong. This is our chance. Let's go out there and do it. And we're going to try really hard and we're going to do our best. Not like the generation before us that messed everything up. We're going to make it all right. And I hope they do. More power to you. But good luck finding the power to do that apart from God. Good luck finding the power to do that apart from grace, apart from love, apart from mercy, apart from faith. Instead of climbing the ladder, take a knee. Instead of trying to gain status, understand that we're here to serve. And that it's about relationships first, not about achievements and accomplishments. Deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me, Jesus says. It's not about climbing the ladder. That isn't going to be enough for you, even if you achieve it. There's nothing wrong with getting that, but it's not the target that's going to satisfy your soul. This is Kyle. Kyle gave the commencement speech that I think is the best one I've ever heard in my life. He was 17 years old when he gave it. It was at a high school in Florida. It was in the year 2019, and he was the valedictorian. And he got up to the stand, and he said this. Take a look.
I stand before you tonight as the 2019 valedictorian. This time last year, I found out that I was in the running for this title. It was then that I decided I wanted it. So, I worked hard for it. I sacrificed for it. And yes, I stressed for it. And I got it. And at our senior awards ceremony, it felt so good when I heard my name announced with this title. It was so good. For about 15 seconds. Yeah, 15 seconds of my heart racing and my adrenaline pumping. 15 seconds of, yeah, I won. 15 seconds of being at the top of the pile of all my accomplishments. And it felt euphoric. But there must come a 16th second. And on that 16th second, sat down in my seat, I looked at my silver stole that says valedictorian, and I thought, that's it? What just happened? Why am I not feeling anything else? To be honest, I don't even know what I was expecting. A parade of balloons to drop? Or maybe I was hoping that all of my problems would fade away in comparison to this amazing achievement. But none of that happened, not even in my heart. I felt nothing. I was shocked. This was a huge problem for me, and I needed to figure out why. So here was my thought process. Working hard is good. It is, in fact, biblical. But it should not be done for the sole purpose of a goal's sake at the expense of relationship with others.
There it is. We aim for the right target when we aim for relationships. Relationships with the people you're sitting next to right now. You saw I came here alone. Relationships with the people you're sitting next to right now. The ones who are around you. Your family, your church family. You say, I don't have any friends here. Not yet. You have potential friends here, the ones who are waiting to be your friends, the ones who are waiting to connect with you and bond with you and do life together with you. Some of you are blessed with family in addition to that. Family that you go home with and maybe that we take for granted too often. That we should learn to appreciate. Spouses, people we do life together with. When we live for others, we're starting to aim for the right target. But relationships don't end with human relationships. They start with end with our relationship with the one who created us and saved us. Jesus Christ comes along and he says, I'm telling you this because I love you. I'm not telling you this because I want to scold you and tell you how wrong you are. I'm telling you this because there's a better way. The problem with striving is that we get like Kyle did. Maybe you've experienced this. Maybe you had a big goal in life and then you achieved it. You accomplished it, and then it felt great for 15 seconds. I guess 15 minutes of fame has now been reduced to 15 seconds. But the 16th second must come. What do you do then? What do you do when the thrill of the achievement wears off? What do you do when no one cares anymore, which will come really quickly? What do you do when you realize, well, that was sort of a waste of time to think that I lived my whole life for that goal and then I achieved that goal and it isn't enough? What if the things that we do quietly, behind the scenes, in the name of Jesus Christ? What if the things we do to serve? What if the things we do when we take a knee? What if when we walk into a room, we don't walk in and say, what's in this for me? But we walk into a room and say, what's in this for them? What can God do through me? How can I serve in this conversation? How can I serve in this group? How can I serve in my office, in my school? How can I serve in my neighborhood? How can I serve the people that I'm around in the name of Jesus Christ? Not for the glory of me, but for the glory of God. The problem with striving is that it doesn't satisfy when we aim for the wrong target. But when we strive to live the life that our Creator created us to live, well, that opens up all sorts of new doors. And now we aren't just saying, hey, lead the way, I'm going to do it my way, get out of my way, it's my way or the highway, and that'll show just how strong I am. What a joke. What a lie that is. Sorry, Frank Sinatra, but you're way off. Don't do it your way, do it God's way. Then you know you're on solid ground. Instead of saying, hey, follow my way, it's follow Jesus' way. Follow the one who says, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. And then what that leads to is realizing not what the world says, which is, you've got this, so let's go. Here we go. We're going to take over we're going to fix everything that's broken. It's a much more honest and humble, God's got us. God's got me and God's got you. So I'm going to let go. I'm going to let go and let God. I'm going to surrender my will to God's. I'm going to start living the life that God tells me and commands me to live. I'm going to start paying attention to what Jesus says at the heart of his teaching, in the heart of this first gospel, Mark, that was ever recorded, chapters 8, 9, and 10, about what the key to a full life really is. And it isn't about more Golden Globes and trophies and valedictorian speeches. It's about serving and loving and giving and caring and having compassion and focusing in and investing in relationships over achievements. And when we do that, the world says the road to success is believing in yourself, finding your own power, climbing the ladder, gaining status, going your own way, doing it your way, knowing you've got this overconfidently, so let's go. And that'll lead to success and an empty life. Or a success that leads for 15 seconds and then the emptiness starts in second 16. Instead, we could go God's way and live for the glory of God instead of the glory of us, and know that life is tough, but we're going to be pulled out of it because of our faith and hope and love and the power of God's grace and the power of his love, which we receive, we don't earn, it's a gift. We're going to take a knee in response to that glorious grace. We're going to deny ourselves, we're going to carry our cross, we're going to surrender, we're going to sacrifice, we're going to say, hey, how can I serve instead of what can I get? And that's going to be the key that unlocks the door to remind us that we're following the way of Jesus that leads to a deeper truth and a more abundant life, and that God's got us. And so now we can let go and experience what Jesus says in John 10:10 is the abundant and full and rich and satisfying life, it says in the original Greek. We can all have this if we just change our target. The rest of Kyle's speech is even better. It's a shorter version, and we'll land the plane of this sermon with this, but I want you to zoom in and pay attention. What were we made for? What is true greatness? And how do we actually get there? Go ahead, Kyle. You should be a preacher.
Now, I would like you, my fellow classmates, to do some self-reflecting. I would like you to take a moment to fill in a different thing that you strive for and you focused on. Something that you thought was the end-all, be-all. Perhaps it was sports. Perhaps it was fine arts, academics, getting into a particular school, an unhealthy social life, social media, or video games. And here's the lesson. Have no regrets in the 16th second. Nothing is more important than your healthy relationships. Nothing. Not your goals, not your successes. And here's why. Relationships are where we get to influence, impact, and change people's lives. Your life cannot be meaningful without them. Now, we are put on this earth by our Creator, and we all have a purpose: to advance God's kingdom that all may be saved. Now, how we all go about that, that's what's different. It's different in what college we choose, who we marry, and what career we choose. It's different in the triumphs and tragedies that come upon us. But in all those things, new relationships are being formed. As you live your life on this earth, there is no greater good than you can do for a person than to love them so much that you point them to Jesus Christ.
And there it is. That the way we live and the way we love hits the target by pointing people to something more. The more that they were made to live out. And that's to walk with Jesus Christ, who's the way, the truth, and the life. He doesn't just tell us what to do, he sets the example. In Mark 10, the last verse of our Bible reading today, Jesus says, "For even the Son of Man," me, Jesus is saying, "even I came not to be served, but to serve others, and to give my life, his life, as a ransom for many, as a ransom for you." There's the teaching, there's the example. Aim carefully. Pay attention to where you're aiming and where you're influencing your kids and grandkids to aim. Teach them to live for something that they were made to live for, that'll give them a full and satisfying life. Amen?